So I recently had a conversation with Jose from the Alone TV show. He was in season 2 and he lasted 59 days out in the wild. No supplies, no help, no assistance. 59 days, it's quite impressive. I recorded this interview or chat with Jose, and there's a lot of wisdom in his words, and I think what he has to say might interest you. So this is a long video, so what I've done is that I have put some bookmarks in the video, and you'll find those in the video description below, so you can go there and scroll to whatever interests you the most. Okay, enjoy. Welcome to this video chat with Jose. I hope I pronounced it correctly. I've been very excited about this for quite some time, and I plan to do this video chat with you because you are actually a survival and bushcraft expert. You don't have to say anything to that. I feel I can say that as a fact. And you were in season 2 of Alone, and you are also an instructor in the old ways, primitive techniques, survival techniques. I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation. I have a few questions myself, and some of my viewers have some questions as well. We are Skyping across some wide distance.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell tell the people watching this where you are right now?
Well, in our house here in a little village of Mayo in the Yukon Territory. This is about 450 kilometers north of the capital. Well, capital. Whitehorse is a town of 25,000 people. My village here is a native town, half native American, half white, of maybe 250, less than 300 people. So we're north of 64 here, and I think I must be close to 10,000 kilometers away from you, maybe 8,000.
Yeah, I want to ask you, what was it like to survive? Because you did survive on your own in that TV show Alone for quite some time, and I watched that season, and I was very impressed. Can you just tell the people watching this, how long did you last, and what was it like?
When I was out in season 2, it was I was out for 59 days.
59 days,
which was somewhat unfortunate because I had just talked to the guys about when you stayed for 60 days in that season, they would give you a little prize, like a little jar of peanut butter is what I was wishing for. Anyway, missed out on that. Yeah, so 59 days. Yeah, almost 2 months, I guess.
Most people think they're tough if they go for a hike for 3 or 4 days with modern equipment and everything they need.
Well, time out in the bush is a very variable thing. I know a man here in town who was beat up by a female grizzly bear for under 15 seconds, and that was the longest time of his life. It doesn't look very good either. So, what's time out there, really? If you're spending a night out here and it's really freezing and you're unprepared, one night can be ridiculously long, right? So 59 days is a long time. It felt like it sometimes. Other times it was great. I was thinking, oh man, I'm living in a postcard. So it depended on the day, really.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background, because you're actually European originally?
Yeah. I'm originally from Spain, the northwest part of Spain. I'm a Galician, both on father's and mother's side. We're Celtic people, Celtic with some Germanic barbarian mixed in, Suevian, Visigoth. It's just wild people. What the Romans called barbarians. I was born in Germany though, because my parents were immigrants, and they were working in Germany at the time, and I was born there. Moved back to Spain when I was 12, and grew up then there. My background, well, I mean, I just turned 50. That's a long story, I guess, but that what is relevant to the survival and primitive skills in bushcraft, saying probably I have a background in the military. I served in the Spanish Foreign Legion in Special Forces, and I got an introduction to survival there in a way. So military survival is one of the most misunderstood things, I believe, for civilians. You don't really learn all that much that people think you do learn. But anyway, it was very, very useful for a mindset type of thing. That's something you really do learn, especially in an active unit like special operations. You really get to understand that your actual limits versus what your mind tells you your limits are is a very different thing, and that can be applied to survival or to any experience in life, really. Later on, I served in the Spanish royal house. I became a police officer. I specialized in personal security. I was a bodyguard for the royal family in Spain for a while, and that forced me to live in Madrid. And I just almost developed an allergy to the big cities. That was the career ender for me. My father was desperate because I had this wonderful career. I was a bodyguard for the royal family. My father, man, millions of people would die to have your job. Yeah, but I don't want it. I don't want it. And I quit everything. And I moved to the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain. It was a rough time for me. I pretty much had a mental breakdown that living in the big city, and then I had relationship trouble, whatnot. Quit everything. I just started a new life. First, I went to the Pyrenees Mountains, and then when I got my discharge from the military, I repaired the sailboat. An old sailboat was my best friend, and we set out sailing around the world. And that went well it was a 3 to 5 year plan that only lasted for 8 months. We sailed out of the Mediterranean, crossed the Atlantic, and sailed into the Amazon, and we were having a lot of fun. But we lost the boat. A bigger boat ran over it, and we shipwrecked. We had to jump off the boat to save our lives, and I lost everything that day. Literally, all my worldly possessions were gone within 30 seconds, and I came out wearing a swimming trunks. That's all. I didn't even have footwear, not even a t-shirt, nothing. And so then start again, reset. And I went back to Spain, but I didn't want to be in Spain. So previously I traveled to Canada, and I bought some property here that I still have out here in the bush. And I decided I would move there and repair my cabin, and basically I stayed. I've been traveling a lot across North America since that. This was in 2005. But I pretty much stayed here in the Yukon on and off since then, and then eventually I met my wife, and now I can't escape. So that's a joke. I'm very happy with her, but also given the situation in the world right now, living in a remote area feels somewhat comfortable because everything south of here seems to be going crazy at a speed that it's hard to even keep up with the news, let alone filter what news are real and what aren't. It's you know, here we have a fairly primeval lifestyle. I hunt, and we try to eat as much as we can from the land. My wife is a wonderful, gifted gardener, and despite what some people might think here in the north, because we don't really have nighttime right now. The sun never sets; it just circles around, just as like in northern Scandinavia, same thing. Yeah. So if you know how to work with it, you can grow a surprising amount of food here. So between what she grows and I kill, we have a lot of food, and then we buy things to complement that, and for snacks and for taste. But yeah, I'm getting sidetracked. That's beyond the question.
No, not at all, not at all. I wonder if we should jump just straight to those questions, but I would just like to mention your school. You are offering courses, and I think that hold on, I have those questions here on the side here. There are a lot of these courses that you can take that, I think it's totally okay to take a bushcraft course and learn some techniques, but if you really want the real thing, your courses would be a good choice. So I'll put the link in the video description to anyone who is interested to check that out. And it says there is Sacred Circle School, and you have several courses. Also, just let me mention that you have a background, not only a background, but you're quite active in what we in Norway call full contact blunt weapon combat. So to me, it kind of feels like you've been going back to your roots, and it says here on your website as well. Maybe while I find these questions, maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you and I were about 4 centuries separated. I'm in the 14th century. That was like I said, 50 years old. That there's a lot of stories to tell. I practiced martial arts since I was 13 years old, and I consider that was one of the most positive influences in my life, especially as a teenage boy. I could have been very naughty, because I know myself, and I have an inquisitive mind, and I am completely and utterly unafraid of trying things. Always have been. I never have this thing, is this a good idea? No, I would just do it. So when you're a teenager, that opens you to all sorts of decisions that you might regret later. So I was very lucky to have that guidance, because I practice a very traditional style of martial art, and it was very closely knitted with philosophy. We read. We were not just training. Our instructor, our martial arts master, told us to read books like the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, the Tao Te Ching. We were exposed to Far Eastern philosophy, and it was a wonderful influence for me. Wonderful.
And then you went from that. It says on your website that you kind of felt it more meaningful to search in your own in the martial arts of your own culture.
Yeah, and this happened much later in life, because I really started seriously about Western martial arts in about 2008-9, somewhere around there. because it just dawned on me that why am I always practicing the martial arts of somebody else's ancestors when I come from one of the most warlike people in the world, for good and for bad. Spain was in a constant state of warfare all the time. It's this fertile land that everybody wanted to invade, and we were constantly fighting somebody back, and then fighting among ourselves. I guess we just like to fight. So that I said, well, there must be a martial tradition in my ancestry. Where is it? Is it completely gone and erased by the advent of gunpowder? Right. The thinking is because Japan was in the Middle Age till about 1868, till the Meiji Restoration. They have their traditional martial arts are closer in time, and that's why they're preserved and all that. And our martial arts got lost with gunpowder so early on that we don't have them. But that's not exactly true, because there is information you can find, and people are bringing it back right now. And that's been an absolutely fascinating journey. So much fun to fight like my ancestors, and they had beautiful martial skills. Even in Scandinavia, they practice this glima,
of course.
Which
yeah,
I would love to get an introduction to that. That'd be so interesting.
Yeah, well, there are people doing that, and more people are getting into that now.
Yeah.
And so you will find it in most Viking festivals. I see it quite often. Not this year, of course, because we didn't have any. We haven't had any Viking festivals.
This year is a bit out of the ordinary.
Can I jump to those questions now?
Yeah, right ahead.
So most of these questions, they are about your experience being on the Alone TV show and your time out, alone in the wilderness. And I'll just pick some of these questions. Here's one. Can you ask if the experience has given him a new perspective on his life, and has it changed how he now lives his life in any way?
Okay. Yeah, that's a serious question. Yeah, in a way it has, but probably not in the way that people think, and that makes it a very personal question. But let's try go there. This was not exactly my first rodeo. I had been doing somewhat similar stuff for years in different environments. When I'm interested in learning about, and I've been out in basically every ecoregion of the North American continent for a number of years. When I retired from my military career and the sailing thing didn't work out, that's what I did. Oh, phone is ringing. I hope my wife picks it up. So you got it? Sorry. I've been out in the desert for periods of time. I've been out in the mountains. I've been out in every ecoregion to learn it. However, you don't push yourself that long. If you're out and you're learning the plants, you're learning the animals, you're learning the tracks, you're learning what you can trap, what you can hunt, just figuring out the environment and learning about it. You don't stay until you lose so much weight. You go there for a few weeks, and then you come back, and then you say, okay, next time I'll go out. Say you were out in the spring, next time you go out in the fall and see what that's like. Next time I'm going out in the winter, and little by little you're learning an environment. This was different in the sense that you get thrown in there, and like I said, I was out there for basically 2 months, and learning as you go, it's difficult because feeding yourself while you're learning the environment, while you have to waste a lot of time filming, that was the worst part for me, filming. That was pretty rough. So did it change me? Well, what did change me is that, unbeknownst to the viewers, I guess, I was also on a spiritual journey out there. And why do I say I'm a Amoedo viewer? Because early on, I was having some very intense experience out there, and I said to myself, okay, am I going to film this and share this? And I decided against it. I decided not to do that because I said people are not here to hear. People don't come to the show to hear about me talking about my beliefs. They're here to see skills. And the producers told me, we want you to do skills. I said, okay, that's my job. Skills it is. Which was incredibly frustrated because they edited the best skills I did out. They just edited them out. Anyway, dealing with TV is not an easy journey. But I experienced things out there because it was, to me, a spiritual journey. I had some very intense experiences. I did not film them. I did not speak about them much. I don't think that somebody who watches the season gets a lot of exposure to that, but those experiences they have stayed with me, and they have changed. They have effected definite changes in me, just for the fact that exactly fasting. I was eating something every day, just not quite enough every day. So when you go out with I have spent a lot of time with medicine men here with the Indians. They're not from India, we know, but the native people here, they refer to themselves as Indians, so that's why I use that word. So not being disrespectful. It's just I live with them, and that's how we talk. When you spend time with medicine men around campfires, and I've done ritual stuff with them and whatnot. I just have a different view of the land, and one of the things you do when you do a vision quest is fasting. And I was on not exactly a fast, but I was on very low calories for 2 months, and I was looking to find certain connections out there, and that is the stuff that happened along those lines. Yes, I can say that has made a change. There was a before and after that, and maybe I should have shared more about that on the camera on the show. But first of all, they edit things out, and it was so personal,
Yeah.
I just it didn't. I didn't want this to be part of what the general public would discuss about me. That's beyond private. That's like so.
Yeah.
I bet that was an unexpected answer for a lot of people. Who knows? We'll see.
Well,
but it's the truth.
It is your honest answer.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's yeah.
Let's see. How difficult is it making fire, and would you carry embers in the manner of ancient folks? I believe some tribal peoples will carry their embers wrapped in a bit of leather. Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. If we're talking about alone on my season, we were in northern Vancouver Island. It's one of the rainiest places on earth. It's literally called the northern rainforest. So yeah, making a fire there is one of the most difficult places that I've ever been for making fire. If the question is generic, making fire in the desert at high noon is sometimes quite easy. It's like just waiting to happen almost. But no, out there, it was rough. It was actually, it's easier to make fire here in the Yukon in the winter than it was there in the summer. Well, summer was fall time. So it was really, 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 really rainy. And everything is just sopping wet. Like you think you're collecting dry firewood. It's not dry. Not really. Because everything is just standing in the rain. Even the dry standing trees that you normally get dry firewood out of. Yeah. It's like standing in the shower. So I was very worried about that at first. So for the first 11 days, I kept my fire going. 11 days. Not the bright flames, but I kept embers going all the time, day and night. So I would just, I made a blower, and I would just blow the embers back into a fire in the morning to cook, add firewood and all that. But meanwhile, I was practicing. I was carrying a ferrocerium rod, fire steel, what people call fire steel, big chunky one, 6 inches. And I was practicing making fire with a ferro rod out there with the different materials and all that. And the material of choice out there is the bark of the cedar tree, the outer bark. And at some point, I realized that I was really very predictably making fire every time I tried with a ferro rod inside of my shelter. Once I had my tarp up and all that, I had a quote unquote dry. There's no dry places there because the humidity in the air is so high. I was making fire predictably every time I tried. I said, I can let the embers go out and have a good night's sleep and not be cutting firewood just to feed embers all the time, because that was very taxing. It's an effort to, you waste a lot of calories finding wood just to keep a fire going. And after the 11th day, then I made fires only when I needed them for cooking. And that was a tremendous energy saver. What it meant is that I was catching on that what I could do with the technology I carried in that environment, and with a ferrocerium rod and knowing how to use cedar bark, I never failed to make a fire till the end of the season. I was always a little bit anxious about it, like, oh man, I hope I get a fire, because your hands are cold all the time. It's not super cold there, but you're always wet, so your hands are always cold. and when you're on short rations, you don't have calories to burn. You really want that fire. And just to boil food and whatnot. I never failed to make fire. That was
that's quite impressive, I would say.
Well, a ferrocerium rod is kind of cheating, if you know what I mean. If you wanted to do the same thing with a bow drill that is also much more calorie intensive when you're on short rations already, that'd be a real challenge. That'd be difficult. And with a hand drill out there, pretty much, I'm not going to say impossible, but rough. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, now let's see here. I'm scrolling down. Yes, this is a good one. About the mental challenges. Let's see. In hours of darkness, did their mind wander when they heard things? He's talking about all of the participants, I guess. In hours of darkness, did their mind wander when they heard things in their surroundings that they could not explain? Did fear start to creep in, and did they ever feel as if it was they who were being watched and hunted?
Well, quite literally, because 2 of the nights that I was out there, I was yelled at by a mountain lion, very nearby. Like I would say 20 feet, maybe 6 meters, like right outside of my shelters. And it is a very interesting scream. Mountain lions have a very strange scream that you hear very rarely, and it is like an evil spirit out of hell. It's hard to describe, but I don't know, maybe like a really, really, really big cat that you step on its tail, and at the same time you're electrocuted with a 12-volt battery. I don't know. You cannot describe it, but in the middle of the night you're sleeping, and this undescribable strange voice just yells at you very, very, very loud right outside your shelter. You don't have firearms. Not allowed to have firearms. We had bear spray. I had an axe. I sleep with my knife on me. This is the one I carried out there, by the way. When I'm out there, I sleep with my knife on me. It doesn't bother me the way I carry it. but you don't have firearms. You know it. Yeah, that was. I had to process it. Okay, what's going on? What is this animal yelling at me? But again, it's not my first rodeo out there. I've been doing this for many, many, many years. So, and I live in basically more dangerous country here than North Vancouver Island. In North Vancouver Island, you have black bears. They rarely bother anybody. The mountain lions, for some strange reason, that there's one of the highest rates of mountain lion to human attacks in the world in Vancouver Island. I don't know why, but still it's very rare. It's rare, but they seem to be more aggressive than the mountain lions in the mainland. Maybe they have less food. I don't know. But it was a real possibility. But it's not my first rodeo. I understand what's going on. The basic rule of thumb is when an animal makes a lot of noise, that's already a good sign. So you wake up. It's like in Spain we say a dog that barks doesn't bite. Okay, if an animal really wants to get you, they come quiet. And big predators can sneak up on you like you won't hear a thing. What you will have is something really big on top of you, and then that's why I sleep with my knife. So I knew already that this was not bad. It was pretty disturbing. But all it was the mountain lion was mad that I was camping in a spot where there was a meadow, and deer would sometimes go there because I saw the sign. The deer moved out when I moved in, so I never saw them, but I saw the sign. I saw the scat and the tracks. And the mountain lion was angry at me for being there because while I was camping there, the deer were not going to come back.
Yeah.
And it was just telling me that. So then, it took me a while because you have to wake up and say, well, okay, what's going on here? I have to think about this. What's going on? Grabbing my knife, grabbing the bear spray, trying to make light. But then I understood what was going on, and then I wasn't too worried. And when it came back, maybe 3 weeks later, it did the same thing. I just yelled back at it. I just talked to it like, look, I'm here all night sleeping. I don't go anywhere at night. You sleep during the day and you hunt at night. I'm not interfering with you. If this meadow I'm here for now, just hunt elsewhere. You got a big territory. Just yelled back at it, talked to him or her. I think it was a female, and that was the end of that. And I never saw any bears. I actually was really, really hoping for a bear because I would try to catch one, but never happened. I didn't have salmon in the creek I was camped on, and I never saw a bear. So, going back to the question, like you hear noises in the night and you don't know what they are. I generally know what they are. It's gonna be rare that I hear something and I can't put it in some category. Like, okay, this is that, and this season these animals are in heat and they're making this noise. Yeah, okay, I know what this is. And then you just put the pieces of the puzzle together, and that's the end of your worry. You know, knowledge is the end of fear. It's not
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not some magical recipe like, oh, I'm so tough, I'm a Green Beret. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the Indians don't think that way. The Indians think, okay, what is this? Something is talking to you. Nature is constantly communicating. You're either able to listen and then you understand what's going on, and once you understand, that's the end of fear. You have no reason to be afraid. Someday something might get you and you die. Well, so then you die. Everybody dies. It's not this idea that you're out there afraid because nature is hostile is more part of the Judeo-Christian tradition. That the Indians don't have that. And I don't think our ancestors back in the day had that either. You are nature. You are part of nature. You're an apex predator. All animals they come across, you know this. They know that you are an apex predator. Why would I be afraid? I'm the most dangerous animal here. Even without a firearm, I'm still the most dangerous animal here because I have incredible resources for setting traps for, I have 1,000 ways to fool animals, big and small, to catch them and kill them and eat them like my ancestors did. Why would I be afraid? You know, I just have a different mindset as more native minded, you know, and this is something that I feel is important to teach.
Yeah. Let's see here. Somewhat connected to what we were just talking about. I can't, there are lots of questions here, but do modern humans still have the fortitude and resilience to cope with survival, isolation, as our forebears did for thousands of years? And if so, what does this bode for future generations when faced with the coming economic and societal hardships? Now, that's it. It says that there are more. And are some individuals simply hardwired to thrive alone in an uncertain survival situation?
So that's a very good question, actually. I think. I think right now, as it is, everybody still has all the instincts that you need to be out there and live an Aboriginal lifestyle available to you to wake up if you put yourself in that situation. However, that might not always be the case, and I'll give you a quick example of that. So right now, physically, if you look at our bodies, there is yet no big difference from ourselves to our ancestors. The difference in the mind, that's a different story, especially in mental toughness, because we have grown soft mentally by having so many comforts. But just the fact that you have running water on a tap in your house, you don't have to go anywhere, where your Viking ancestors 1,000 years ago, when they needed water, somebody in the household, maybe a child or whoever, had to walk to a creek and come back. It didn't matter if it was raining or sun or day or night or cold or warm. If they needed water, they had to walk a distance, get the water, bring it in the house. Those little life had a lot less comforts and a lot more effort. Everything came at, so to speak, at a higher price in comforts, and we've grown comfortable. So that has made our minds, basically, we're wired to think that comfort is normal. And when you're out in the bush, comfort is the exception, not the norm. You have to work hard to get to a point where you have developed a tool technology around you that makes your life now comfortable enough. Like, say, for example, camping. When you go camping, you're less comfortable than at home in your couch, but you're comfortable enough where you would call camping enjoyable, right? So there is a comfort level that you perceive as enjoyable, that is not hardship, is doable, and we're wired for that still. However, how far down the rabbit hole can we go? I'll just give you a quick mental exercise. If you think about it, all Chihuahuas are descendants of wolves. Could they live like a wolf? Not anymore. Not anymore. You can't give me 10 Chihuahuas and expect me to release them here and them take down a moose. It's just not going to work. Or I don't know, other breeds like a bulldog, with those noses and all that, they can't really breathe very well. So I guess it depends on how crazy human society becomes. If, very soon we will have probably possibilities on our hands to work with genetic technology, and we can change our bodies. We may be able to make changes that right now are even unthinkable to us. If we go down a road where our bodies are so different from our ancestors that we cannot really go back to nature, that is a real possibility. Who knows, in 200 years, 1,000 years. Right now, our bodies are still, I think, mostly perfectly capable to go back and experience an almost 100% Aboriginal lifestyle for a while, and our minds can be trained to do that. 100 years from now, I don't know, because technology is advancing to a point where will we become like Chihuahuas? Are we gonna be going down that road? Are our great grandkids be so different from us physically that we can't recognize them, or are they gonna be? I don't know. Maybe we're lucky, and they'll, genetic advances will make it so that they're super athletes and completely optimized in their bodies and their minds, and they will be like gods compared to us. If the world went in an evolution that is high in consciousness, then maybe yes, but at this point it's hard to see it because the consciousness seems to be actually going down rather than up.
Yeah. Now let's see here if we can find a couple of other questions now.
This is turning all philosophical. Oh my God.
Yes, yes. Nothing wrong about that. Let's see. How much of a comfort was it knowing that if things went seriously wrong, you could call for help?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think that the answer, it's a good question, I believe, because I think the answer will surprise people. It was horrible. It was horrible. That was one of the worst things. To me, the worst thing, top notch up there. I mean, the worst thing is being on low rations, like eating but not eating quite enough, and that gives you a mental roller coaster. It's just even hard to describe. But technically, the worst thing for me was filming. I hated filming because it was wasting my time that I wanted to use finding food. But you have to have this yellow brick thing on you. It's this device that you can hit that button and tap out and all that. Having that button on you, that is like, in my mind, it was like the instant hamburger button, right? And you think about this a number of times a day. Right there in your pocket is this button that you push a button, and in your mind you're thinking, within less than 2 hours, I hit that button, within less than 2 hours, I could be sitting in a restaurant, probably.
Oh, that must have been...
It sucks. It sucks. It's so funny how they word the question, is that a comfort? Look, I'm not afraid out there. Everybody's experience out there was different. I know that some participants were not comfortable and they were maybe afraid, or they didn't like, they weren't used to being in large predator country. To me, that's everyday stuff. I'm not afraid out there. I don't need to worry so much about being rescued. I didn't think about that, but having that instant hamburger button there was absolute torture. I hated it.
I can imagine, because it must have been so tempting.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, now let's see here. What kind of mental state did he have to get into to enter this challenge? How did you do something to get into the right mental state to enter this competition?
So there's kind of two answers to this. Well, I don't know to enter. To enter, all you have to do is convince these people that you're going to be fun on TV, basically. That it's worth their time and they're going to make money off of you. But to be there, there's two answers to that. As far as a mental state, to me, I was on a spiritual quest. We've talked a little bit about how I do medieval fighting and all that. Behind me here, you can see my medieval stuff and all that.
And the sword right on the edge.
The swords and all that. This is my little altar where my important things are in the house. The things that I worship. and this is, anecdotal, I guess, to most people. In the Medieval Fighting Association that I fight with or in the EMP, I was chosen to be a knight, to become a knight, to gain knighthood. And this is not by the Queen. It's not anything official. It's just between ourselves and our association. So my time out there and alone was my vigil. When you get knighted, you're supposed to spend a night normally in a church or a chapel guarding your weapons, and the next day in the morning you go through the knighting ceremony and all that. And I decided that my time out there on alone would be my vigil. And I had an oath to swear, and I recited that oath in the morning. First thing I did when I woke up, and at night, last thing before going to sleep and all that. And I was on a nightly quest, so to speak. So that was my mental support. As far as the challenges, when you are losing weight constantly, because I was losing weight, I was eating every day. I had 2 meals a day normally. I was eating every day, even if it was leftovers from the previous day. I was eating at least something. But it's difficult to eat quite enough because your calorie needs are higher than in town.
For those who don't know, what did you eat?
Oh, for the most part, fish. Out there in Vancouver Island, I had a gill net that I was allowed to bring. It was set on a pulley system, so I could retrieve it from land without getting wet and deploy it again on a pulley system. I filmed it in detail. They never showed that. It was just heartbreaking. All the interesting things I did that they never showed. But I was getting an average of 2 fish a day. Some days I would get none. Some days I would get 3. I would say the average was 2 fish, not very big ones. And then complement that with green stuff, sometimes mushrooms. I ate some those snails, what do you call them? Slugs. Wasn't very good. Algae. I dried algae and ate that. I boiled everything with salt water from the ocean, or half salt water, half fresh, because you really crave the salt. It would have been very hard to not have salt. Fern, berries, salal berries were still around when I went out there. So just gathering, and then trying to catch some fish. That was the diet. Just basically fish soup twice a day. But fish is not very rich in calories, and now here you're using a lot of calories because you're constantly cold in this wet environment. It was a downhill slope. I was just starving slowly, but I was not really winning the game. I was hoping for a big salmon run, which never came in my creek. It was too small. I was hoping for a big animal like a bear that would then that's the win right there. Never happened because there was no salmon. And when you're losing weight, your brain is 98% fat. For it to function well, it craves for you to eat fat, to have a high enough calorie diet. When you don't get it, you go through incredible mental roller coasters that absolutely blows your mind, and you cannot possibly be prepared for that. There's no training that can say, okay, no, I'm prepared for that. It's good. No, you have to deal with it, and it sucks. It sucks. So I had a log that was my thinking log, and sometimes I would go there, sit down, especially towards mid-afternoon, evening. For some reason, there was just rhythms to this. I would sit down and say, why do I feel so absolutely miserable right now? And then you think about it, says, well, I guess it's the low-calorie diet. But it's like plunging in this deep depression and again, the button is right there. The button is right there. And you say, well, this is the end of all my worries right there. And you come up with excuses like, oh, well, I've been here long enough, and I've proven my point, and my wife needs me, and then you have to go through this and process it. And then half an hour later, you cook your soup, your fish soup, you have a bowl of fish soup, and all of a sudden life is wonderful, and look at this place. It's like a postcard. Who would ever want to leave? I want to live here forever. This place is marvelous. There's no other place like this on the planet. Look at the beauty. And you have to have a capacity to detach yourself from your mind and look at it like you're watching a show. Like, look at this guy going all euphoric now. In half an hour ago, he was in this black pit of despair, and realize that both of these things are lies. That it's not as bad as half an hour ago, and it's not as good as right now. The truth is somewhere in the middle. You'll be okay. Look at that. Somebody's calling me on the cell phone. Never mind. I'll pick it up later. So this was, and this is, it's very hard to describe. I don't know if a lot of people in the show were able to pass that on, or even aware of it. That, you know what? I think women are much more prepared for this than men. Yeah. Because sometimes because of hormonal changes during the months, women have, some women probably more than others. I don't know, not personal experience, but just from living with a woman, I think women are more used to observing themselves and making an assessment like, well, this might be some hormones speaking here. So then deal with this in a wise way. And out there, that was that times 100. Incredible mood swings. Like, I consider myself a very stable person within reason. I meditate, and I try to really be rational. And there was really irrational moments out there. It was pretty wild. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I would like to finish this chat with a question that none has asked. None have asked now. But I know lots of people are wondering about this. How do I get into camping, bushcraft, and that sort of thing? Because I get quite a few messages from young people, especially, they don't know what to do. Maybe they live in a big city. They don't know, they are a little bit scared, and, what should I do? They ask me. Now, should I buy a lot of stuff? Should I, So what would your advice be? Because you live a lifestyle that many people are dreaming about, actually, and they want to leave the city and be more like you.
Well,
in a way. So what would you say? What would your advice be?
Well, there was a time when I was in a big city, and like I said before, I was living in Madrid, and I was just desperate. I really did not like it, the noise and the rush hours and having to calculate and finding parking spots. So I would escape whenever I had a couple of free days. I would escape to these mountains north of Madrid, and I would practice skills. And you can start as simple as that. The first book that really put me on track of doing actual good, solid, primitive technology skills was Outdoor Survival Skills by Larry Dean Olson. I was lucky to meet him. He passed away now last year. Morris Kohansky passed away. Man, all my mentors are just going. If you don't have anything else, like I did in Spain, I did not know of any good primitive skills or bushcraft instructors near me. I ordered books on the mail and I read them through. It's difficult. It's difficult. A lot of the skills are difficult to do by the book. I was, with that book in my hand, Outdoor Survival Skills, I was able to do my first bow drill fire after many failed attempts. So you got to be stubborn. But something more complicated than that, technically, like flint knapping, like making arrowheads out of stone, I was not able to get it out of that book. I tried, but it's so difficult to explain versus seeing a guy doing it that I did not really do any progress in flint knapping until I got a class in flint knapping, and this was actually my first class was in North Carolina with Steve Watts, one of the founders of the Society of Primitive Technology. He passed away as well. Man, all my mentors. We're getting old, you and I, Björn. The mentors are going.
Yeah.
But if all you have is a book and a weekend, work with that. Work with that. Look, if you have hands and you have a mind, that's what your ancestors used. You know, bears have strength and claws and teeth, and wolves have endurance and resistance to cold, and falcons have speed and incredible eyes. We have the same tools our ancestors had to be apex predators, which is this mind and these transformers of ideas into tangible things that then can give you the superpowers that we have. All animals, when they encounter us in the bush, they consider us to have superpowers. It's hard to understand how you can shoot a bow here and an animal dies 40 yards away. Yeah. That's difficult to understand for an animal. But you have the same tools that your ancestors that were making bows had, their hands and their mind. All you have to do is want it bad enough. If you're lucky to have an instructor that show you even basic stuff nearby, it's not 100% necessary. It'll just save you time, because else it'll be a lot of time spent in trial and error and making a mistake. But nowadays, there's so much information out there with books and YouTube. YouTube is great because you can see visual stuff. Like I've seen you putting out videos on skills and whatnot. Awesome. I didn't have that when I was a teenager. It was books. Nothing was written in my language, in Spanish. I had to find book catalogs. You remember those days where you saw books announced in magazines, and then you had to find a way to order them over the post, or you went to the library to waste a lot of time because nothing really good was published. It was all archaeology and all that. They were not really talking about the skills, how to make things. So nowadays, there's incredible resources. So all it really means is, do you really want it? Because if you want it, you'll find a way.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky to find an instructor that will make that journey shorter and save a few mistakes, that's awesome. But I don't think you really 100% need it.
Well, but people can contact you if they want a good instructor and go to your website and check it out.
We have the website up and running, but right now there's really no courses scheduled because, technically speaking, the Canadian border is closed. I believe that you can fly in, but then you're supposed to be 14 days in quarantine right now.
I keep forgetting that now. We will not be getting into the whole coronavirus and all that in this chat here. It's that would take too long. But
when this whole craziness is over, I really hope I can come visit you sometime, and we'll do a workshop over there with whoever is interested.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
that would be really awesome.
Fun. That forest is not so different from here, so I'm sure that a lot of skill can cross reference.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would like to say that I was lucky enough to be. I was always out in the woods and doing bushcraft. We didn't call it bushcraft when I was a kid, but it was a more. I think still it's a natural part of, at least in some families in Norway. So we have that culture here, but. When it comes to skills like more, we call it primitive skills. I don't really like that word because those skills are not primitive. They're quite complicated, That came to me.
Derogative.
Yeah, it's a lot later, in life. But I'm a little bit concerned, you see, about people who they grow up without knowing nature, maybe in a big city, and they don't their parents don't take them out into the woods and mountains and to the sea, and that's not a good way to spend your childhood, if you ask me. So,
Yeah.
and I worry a little bit about that,
In my mind, and you and I have talked about this a little bit before. I think that if you look at it, we have many problems as a modern society, and I'm generalizing because it's not that different culture from Canada to Norway, or even the United States. Everybody thinks the United States is so different. Not really. When you travel the United States, it's what we call Western society.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are not working well in Western society because unless you're a complete fool, you can see that a lot of the things we do are not sustainable.
Absolutely.
And nature rewards sustainability because nature tends towards balance always. So we have to find a way of life that is more balanced than what we're doing right now, hyperconsumption and so on. If you look at it, the things that are not going well with Western society can be described as a lack of nature awareness, a lack of understanding of human nature, and a lack of basically we have to find ways to live in a symbiotic relationship with a planet, not a parasitic relationship.
Absolutely.
And nobody likes parasites. When a dog has fleas, they scratch them. They don't say, "Oh, great, I have fleas." And we're not doing a good job at this. We have the brain capacity for it, no doubt. Our ancestors did. For a long time, an argument can be made: did they do it because they didn't have any other choice, or did they do it because they were wise in us? And I want to think that it was a choice of wisdom, but because I've talked to many trappers and hunters here, Indians, and the first thing they tell you about trapping, and I know in Scandinavian countries trapping is frowned upon, but it gives the Indians here, a lot of them, a way of life. Is that you have to know how much you can trap, so you can trap every year and then leave the trap line to your children and grandchildren. So how do you make it sustainable? How many animals can you take so that there'll always be animals? Every traditional hunter thinks that way. And as modern society, we're not really thinking that way. We're thinking about profit. How can I make profit for me and my family? Everybody else would do the same. Well, if everybody else thinks that way, we're trashing the planet. We only got one planet. That's not very smart. And we're not just trashing the planet. The planet has an incredible capacity to heal, which people forget sometimes as well. Nature has a capacity to heal that is way beyond our capacity to destroy. We have too much of an ego to realize that, oh, we're destroying the planet. No, we can destroy humanity. The planet is way stronger than we are. But we're not just destroying nature, we're destroying human nature. And there is a constant assault of human nature in all these modern mental theories that we and our children are exposed to. And unless we return to nature and human nature, there's going to be a lot of suffering, I think, still in our lifetime, because you can't go against nature, same as you can't go against the universe. I don't know. If the planet decided to spin the other way around tomorrow, would that be a good idea? If the planet decided to spin away from the sun, would that be a good idea? I don't know. How can you implement a strategy that goes against nature and expect good results? That's,
There's a lot of that happening now.
Oh yeah.
So we are entering challenging times.
Yeah. No doubt.
Anyway, I really enjoyed this chat with you, and we have spoken before as well. Again, I would suggest that everyone watching this go to the link in the video description and check out your website.
Sure.
And yeah, I think that's all for now. We can have another chat later, maybe.
Yeah, well, I hear that. I hope that you and I talk some more. Yeah, I consider you like a brother from another mother. When I started watching your videos, I was just blown off my socks. I said, "This guy, his mouth is moving, and my words are coming out of it. What's going on here?" It's like I know this feller from some other life or something. It was uncanny, and I sent you a message, and I told you. I still feel the same way. So it's nice to see that there are people that truly have an understanding, like a big picture, see what's going on here, like you. And I'm glad that you have a following on YouTube and that your words reach so many people, because that's in the end what we need is healing as a species.
Yeah.
And I think that's. You're working on that on a big scale. You have how many subscribers you have? You have a little army of people that are listening to you. That's wonderful.
306,000 as per recording this.
Well, yeah. That's a lot of people. There's just so much mental programming from school on that's going on, and it's thanks to people like you that work on mental deprogramming, basically bringing back basic human freedom that I think have a chance as a species, because the mental programming we have is not going to work out in a good way, like I said, because it takes us away from nature, and nothing can live away from nature.
No, I think that part is actually a lot worse in the USA, for instance, and possibly, well, I guess Canada as well, than in Norway. I have kids in school, and I don't really think that it's not like that. It's quite sensible, actually, what they learn there. That's my impression, at least. But of course, I'm not at the school, so what do I know? But,
yeah. Well, just the very act of being in school, I find it somewhat questioning, in the sense that it programs you to think that it's normal that a figure of authority tells you when you have to sit and when you have to stand up, when it's okay to go pee, when it's okay to have your sandwich, and to there's more to it in my mind, but then I'm a wild man.
Well, I completely agree, and as I've said many times before in some of my videos as well, that no man should live in a place where he cannot urinate wherever he wants to.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that kind of rules out the cities, I thought, but then I went to Los Angeles, and yeah, it's kind of everywhere.
All over in LA. I know what you mean.
But you get my point.
Oh yeah.
What I'll do now is I will again urge people, now everyone watching, to check out your website, to learn more about what you're doing, and to keep you in mind when this Corona madness is over, when you will probably be offering courses. So I think that's all for now. Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me.
Well,
I very much appreciated that.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be asked to talk in front of as many followers as you have. The privilege is mine.
We'll have a little bit of a chat after this recording. So, okay. But I'll say I'll say goodbye, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye then.
My best regards from the Yukon to you and your folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.